Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you could join us today. Picture this. It's late 19th century Germany.
Right.
You're a tax collector, and you're carrying bags of cash through some incredibly dangerous streets. You obviously need a partner,
Yeah, you absolutely do.
but you don't just need a dog that looks terrifying to thieves, right? You need a bodyguard, one that's capable of independent thought, complete trust in you, and honestly, the physical stamina for a really grueling job.
Exactly. High stakes.
And today, we're looking at a fascinating set of sources that explore what happens when you take that exact same genetic supercomputer and try to run it in a modern living room.
It really is a massive collision of history and modern life. And I think the most crucial takeaway from analyzing this masterclass on the lifetime care for a Doberman is that succeeding with this breed, it doesn't happen through, like, one brilliant training secret.
Right, there's no magic trick.
No, not at all. A healthy, balanced Doberman is built slowly, almost invisibly, really. It's built through thousands of small, ordinary choices made consistently over an entire lifetime.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand what it takes to manage that supercomputer today, you really have to look at the hardware's original purpose back in Apolda, Germany.
Yeah, you have to remember the creator of the breed was dealing with actual life or death stakes.
Right.
When you breed a dog to protect a payroll route, you are intentionally selecting for hypervigilance and, a really profound singular attachment to one handler.
Because if the dog gets distracted, you're in trouble.
Exactly. If that dog wanders off to chase a rabbit or just doesn't care where you are, the payroll gets stolen and, well, you likely get killed.
Wow. So you're essentially installing top-tier military-grade software into this animal.
That's a great way to put it.
And you can't be surprised when that operating system demands a massive amount of processing power and, like, constant updates just to run properly. You asked for a supercomputer, and you got one.
Right, and that payroll guard DNA,
Mm.
it is actively running in the background of every Doberman today. It dictates why training has to be a partnership.
Not a dictatorship.
Exactly. You are dealing with an animal bred to assess threats and think independently in highly dangerous situations. Attempting to just bully that kind of intelligence into submission, it backfires entirely.
Just doesn't work.
No. You have to earn its respect, so it actively chooses to work with you.
Which, honestly, perfectly explains that classic bathroom shadow phenomenon mentioned in the text.
Oh, yes. The shadow.
Yeah, if you own a Doberman, they follow you from room to room, they sit outside the shower, they are just always watching you. And people think, oh, it's separation anxiety.
Right. But it's not. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. They are fulfilling a centuries-old genetic directive to keep their partner in their line of sight.
They're doing their job.
They are simply doing the job they were engineered to do.
Yeah.
A deep attachment was literally a life-saving feature over a century ago. That instinct doesn't just turn off because the dog is now living in a suburban house with a fenced yard.
So, given that intense hardwired loyalty is basically their default setting, the raw material you start with has to matter immensely, right?
Oh, it dictates everything that follows. When you're dealing with a breed this sharp, the breeder's role is paramount.
We're talking health testing, temperament screening.
And early litter handling. Because between 3 and 14 weeks of age, a puppy goes through this critical socialization window.
3 to 14 weeks.
Right. During those specific weeks, their brain is highly plastic. It's literally sponging up data at a physiological level, categorizing what is safe versus what is dangerous.
So calm, positive exposure during that window wires their lifelong confidence. But let me push back here on behalf of someone listening.
Sure.
Say you just adopted an amazing 2-year-old rescue Doberman. You obviously completely missed that 3 to 14-week window. Is the game over? Is the dog just permanently hardwired for reactivity?
No, it's definitely not game over. The brain does remain adaptable. But the mechanism of learning shifts dramatically.
How so?
Well, if you miss that window, or if the rescue dog had really traumatic experiences during it, you are no longer writing the initial code. You're trying to rewrite existing, highly defensive programming. So you're working up a much steeper hill.
Exactly. Building confidence at 2 or 5 or 8 years old requires far more deliberate, patient counterconditioning. Because their default assumption to a novel stimulus is often suspicion rather than curiosity. But if you put in that exact same thoughtful commitment, it's incredibly rewarding.
Okay, so whether you're bringing home an 8-week-old puppy or a 2-year-old rescue, you eventually settle into the daily grind.
The everyday routine.
Right, the operating system is running. Maintaining a high-performance animal every single day without burning out requires looking at the actual fuel you're putting into the physical chassis.
Diet is huge.
Yeah.
And nutrition for a large, deep-chested breed involves a very specific biological mechanism, especially when they're growing.
Because human instinct naturally equates rapid growth with, being healthy and strong.
Right, we want the biggest puppy.
Yeah.
But pushing for maximal size early on, a Doberman forces their developing joints to carry adult weight before the cartilage and bone plates have actually fully fused. Yeah. Controlled, slow growth is essential to prevent lifelong orthopedic issues. Don't feed for maximum size.
And I'd imagine that because they are naturally sleek and deep-chested, just looking at them to gauge their weight is probably highly deceiving.
Very deceiving. The coat and the muscular frame hide a lot of subtle weight gain,
Right. You could easily miss a layer of fat hiding evenly over the ribs.
which is why you must consistently put your hands on the dog. Physically feeling the ribs, which, by the way, should be easily palpable under a slight fat cover, but not protruding like a xylophone.
Right. Not too skinny, not too padded.
Exactly. That hands-on check is the only reliable metric. A visual check for a tucked waist is secondary. And visceral fat isn't just extra weight. It actively secretes inflammatory hormones that tax their joints and organs.
Wow, so it's an active threat. And along with the physical chassis, you obviously have to fuel the mind. For anyone familiar with working breeds, it's pretty standard knowledge that they need mental engagement. But with a Doberman, the sheer volume of processing power means mental stimulation isn't just a fun bonus activity, right?
No, it's a structural requirement for their entire life.
Yeah.
Training does not end after the first year. Older dogs do not stop learning. If you leave a supercomputer sitting idle, it finds its own code to run.
And that code usually involves dismantling your couch.
Or hyper-fixating on reflections on the wall. They will invent a job.
If my Doberman was acting frantic or pacing, my first instinct would just be to run them harder, take them for a 5-mile run to tire them out.
That is the most common trap. And it's almost always the wrong first move.
Right.
Yeah, running them harder just builds a canine marathon runner with incredible cardiovascular endurance.
Oh, right. So they're physically fit but still bored?
Exactly. They're still profoundly understimulated. To truly exhaust a Doberman, you have to drain their neurological battery. They need both mental and physical dimensions engaged.
So what does that look like?
Olfactory processing is a great example. Scent work or tracking. When a dog is actively analyzing complex scents, the olfactory bulb uses massive amounts of cognitive energy.
It actually wears them out.
Tremendously. This intense focus engages their parasympathetic nervous system, which actually lowers their resting heart rate afterward far more effectively than a mindless sprint.
That makes so much sense. And I noticed the sources also put a strong emphasis on scheduled recovery days.
Yes. Constant high-octane physical and mental pressure without rest leads to chronic cortisol elevation.
To get stressed out.
Right. The nervous system needs scheduled downtime to actually process what it has learned, consolidate memories, and decompress. A recovery day isn't wasted time. It's an active, necessary phase of their training rhythm.
Okay, so because that brain is running constantly, the daily care handles their energy. But genetics set invisible traps that require a strict medical rhythm to catch.
Yes, the silent threats.
And it's important to clarify a major misconception here. Genetics set the risk, not the guaranteed outcome.
That is a vital distinction. A genetic predisposition is a biological vulnerability, not a crystal ball. Environmental stress, body condition, and nutrition actively modulate how those genetic risks express themselves over the dog's lifespan.
But there is one massive breed-specific vulnerability that requires aggressive management.
Dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM.
DCM, which is essentially a condition where the heart becomes enlarged and weakened so it can't pump blood effectively.
Yes. And the truly insidious part of DCM is the biological mechanism of compensation.
What do you mean?
Well, a Doberman's body is incredibly stoic. The heart muscle begins to fail, but the body compensates by adjusting blood pressure and holding on to fluids, effectively masking the weakness.
So you wouldn't even know it's happening?
No. By the time you see visible symptoms like coughing, lethargy, or fainting, the heart is already in a profound late-stage failure.
Which means waiting for visible symptoms is a losing strategy.
It's too late by then. Proactive screening is non-negotiable. It's not an optional extra. It is core preventive care.
So what does that screening look like?
An echocardiogram is great because it looks at the physical structure of the heart. But you also need a Holter monitor.
A Holter monitor, like for humans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a wearable EKG vest that the dog wears for 24 hours at home. It tracks every single heartbeat over a full day.
Wow.
It catches silent electrical misfires, arrhythmias, that a standard 10-minute stethoscope check in a quiet vet clinic will completely miss. Catching those misfires early changes the outcome more than anything else.
Because you can start medication before the damage is done.
Exactly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. The systemic connection between the heart and seemingly unrelated routine care. Like dental hygiene.
Yes.
It isn't just about avoiding doggy breath. The sources frame it as a whole-body health issue.
It is an acute cardiovascular issue. The biological pathway there is incredibly direct. The mouth is highly vascular. When a dog has periodontal disease, the gums are inflamed and vulnerable.
Right.
Every time they chew kibble or a toy, they force harmful bacteria from that plaque directly into the bloodstream.
And that blood goes everywhere.
Straight to the heart valves.
Right.
So for a breed already genetically predisposed to heart failure, forcing their immune system to fight a constant low-grade bacterial shower from bad teeth, it just accelerates systemic inflammation and cardiac stress.
So you're literally brushing their teeth to protect their heart. That is wild.
It really is all connected. And because conditions like DCM can progress from completely undetectable to fatal within months, vet visits need to shift from an annual event to twice yearly once the dog ages.
Twice a year.
Yes. 6 months in a dog's lifespan is a significant percentage of their physiological aging. Twice yearly blood panels and exams catch renal changes or emerging murmurs while they are still actionable.
And then, on top of the chronic stuff, we also have to address the acute emergencies, specifically GDV or bloat.
This is terrifying for any deep-chested dog owner.
Yeah.
GDD stands for gastric dilation volvulus. And it's not just a simple stomach ache from eating too fast. The stomach fills with gas and then physically twists on its axis.
Just twists completely around.
Yes. And when it twists, it seals off both the entrance and exit. But more importantly, it cuts off the major blood vessels supplying the stomach and the spleen.
So tissue death begins within hours.
Exactly. The distended stomach also presses against the diaphragm, making it hard to breathe, and restricts blood returning to the heart. It sends the dog into systemic shock.
That's horrifying, so you have to be ready.
You must know the signs. Unproductive retching, a swollen, hard abdomen, extreme restlessness, and you might have an after-hours emergency vet plan and your dog's organized health records already mapped out.
Right, because you do not have time to be scrolling your phone for open clinics at 2 in the morning when GDV strikes.
Every minute counts.
Okay, I have to say, when you lay it all out like this, the Holter monitors, the bacterial showers from the teeth, the threat of the stomach twisting, the constant need for neurological exhaustion, it sounds incredibly overwhelming.
It really does.
An owner could easily live in a constant state of anxiety, terrified that feeding their dog a quarter cup too much or missing some subtle symptom means they completely failed.
And that paralysis is a real threat to the handler-dog relationship. It is vital to dismantle the myth of the perfect owner.
Because it doesn't exist.
Perfection is an impossible standard. Good owners make mistakes. Everyone feeds a bit too much over the holidays. Everyone skips a walk because it's pouring rain and they're exhausted.
Yeah.
What matters isn't the single mistake.
It's the pattern.
Exactly. Health and behavior are shaped by the consistency of the pattern across years. Consistency just means returning to good habits after an imperfect week.
So how do you manage all these cascading risks without losing your mind?
You develop one master skill, which this whole deep dive essentially teaches. You have to learn your individual dog's normal.
Their baseline.
Yes. A Doberman's stoicism means they hide pain incredibly well. But if you have spent years paying attention to exactly how they normally transition from lying down to standing,
Right.
or how enthusiastically they normally hit their food bowl or their exact breathing rate while sleeping, if you know that normal, you will notice a 5% shift.
You catch the subtle deviation early.
Exactly. You catch the change in their gait on day 2, rather than month 2, when it becomes a glaring medical emergency.
And that acute awareness ties directly into evaluating their quality of life later on.
Yes. Quality of life isn't just a generic checklist. It's a holistic look at their mobility, their comfort, their neurological engagement, based on what good has historically looked like for that specific dog.
Yeah.
That acute observation is the ultimate preventive medicine.
It's amazing. And it really all comes back to where we started. Building a longer, happier life for this dog isn't one magic intervention.
No, it's not.
It is the accumulation of ordinary choices. The Holter monitor vest you strap on them, the recovery day you enforce, the teeth you brush tonight, the body check this weekend.
The physical environment has changed from 19th century Germany to a modern living room, sure. But the core relationship hasn't changed in a century.
It's still about trust built through consistent presence.
Absolutely. The history explains the hardwired behavior. The behavior dictates the need for collaborative training, and that consistent, observant partnership creates the foundation for a long life.
It's an incredible blueprint, but, it leaves me with one final kind of provocative thought for you listening to mull over.
Oh,
Yeah, we've spent all this time talking about how to mold, care for, and manage this incredibly intense animal. We've talked about the decade-long commitment to daily discipline, managing your own anxiety, and observing another living creature's normal with just unwavering attention.
it's a lot of work.
Right. So if raising a Doberman demands that profound level of daily consistency, how much does owning this dog fundamentally rewire the human's brain, patience, and daily habits in the process? Over 10 years, who is really training whom?
That is a profound question. Managing a dog of this caliber inevitably shapes the handler just as much as the handler shapes the dog.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the lifetime care of the Doberman. We hope you're walking away with a deeper understanding of the mechanisms behind the care and what it truly means to be a partner to this breed.
Yes, and as a quick reminder, while we love digging into the science and biology of all these sources, this deep dive is strictly for educational purposes.
Definitely. Always consult your actual veterinarian for health concerns or medical advice regarding your dog.
They know your dog's baseline best.
Exactly. Until next time, keep observing, keep building that partnership, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.